It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
And welcome into another edition of Musso at the box. LSU is swept up in Fayetteville. They are now 20-9 on the year and 2-7 in the Southeastern Conference. That's the mark we wanted them to avoid at all costs. They couldn't do it for a variety of different reasons. A really rough game on Thursday night for LSU. A bitter defeat, gut punch on Friday. And then, I really don't even know what to call Saturday. And that's ultimately where we're going to start here momentarily. But LSU they played hard. They did certain things well. They just weren't good enough. And they lost that game on Saturday and got swept. I can look at Thursday and say they did not play well. They walked 11 guys. They struck out 19 times. Like there wasn't good pitching. There wasn't good hitting. Like it was bad. Now, granted, you kind of expected that, right? LSU did not go all in to win that ball game on Thursday night because they thought they had a better chance in the other two and, in the final two games of the series. And all you really needed to do was get one. If you could have lucked in and stole this series, awesome. But all you really needed to do was get one. That's what we preached this whole time. So the performance, like the loss on Thursday, not surprising. The performance, discouraging. But they bounce back strong on Friday, play well, the sixth innings of the black eye in that ball game offensively, but you didn't have your best stuff from Luke Holman. He battles, you grit it out, you're in a tied game against the number one team in the country. You've matched them really in every way possible in that ball game, and you lose. And it's just another gut punch. Felt similar to the game against Florida, obviously game number 2 of that series. And man, were you going to be able to get off the mat. And ultimately they do, but you put forth a good effort. You just never put forth a consistent enough effort at the same time in game 3 on Saturday to win it. And that is ultimately just very disappointing. And here's what we're going to do. We'll go through it all. We'll talk about the key moments that you succeeded in, the key moments that you failed in, and ultimately you ending up going back to Baton Rouge 0-3 on the weekend and losers of 4 straight SEC games. So we will talk about all the issues, but the one thing we're not going to do, we're not going to sit here and tell you it's over. If you're ever looking for that from me, the only time you're going to get it is when the season is actually done, when they have finished their time, when they are no longer eligible to play, when there are no games left. That is the only time you will ever hear me say that. So if that's what you're looking for here, sorry, you're not going to get it. Now, I will give you all the honest commentary you want on this baseball team, and right now a lot of it is not what you want to hear. But we're not going to sit here and say it's done. Is it good right now? Absolutely not. Is it gut check time? Is it nut cutting time? Absolutely. And that's what they got to get going. Bit of an odd schedule for them coming up this week. LSU's next game is on Monday against Southern. So just, heads up, you probably won't have a preview for that because Sunday's Easter, and maybe I'll get something out early Monday morning or whatnot. But odd schedule. So their next game is Monday. All right, let's get into it. Y'all smash the like button if you haven't already. Get subscribed up to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Get subscribed up on your favorite podcast app. All of that is greatly appreciated. And, it's greatly appreciated. So let's dive in. Like I said, we're going to start with Saturday. We'll start with game number 3 because we've already kind of gone through and recapped game 1 and game 2 immediately after those games on the live stream. We will touch back on them, but in a much more abbreviated version. So let's go through game number 3. The one thing, when we talked on Friday night after LSU lost in extra innings, and it was just a complete gut punch, the one thing we said, how are they going to get off the mat on Saturday against Arkansas? because, man, that's just a really tough pill to swallow, what happened to them on Friday. Because in a lot of areas of that game, you played well. It just wasn't enough. And that's a theme right now with this baseball team, and it definitely was a theme over the last 2 games. So how are they going to be able to get off the mat? It went right back into the competitive fight that we wanted to see from them, that Jay Johnson wanted to see from them, that we talked so much about leading into this series. And lo and behold, they come out with the competitive fight. Y'all, they got off the mat. You can't sit here and say that they didn't get off the mat. You have some changes in the lineup, as we expected. You finally weren't facing a left-handed starter. Tommy White moves to the leadoff spot. Ashton Larson gets a start in the outfield and, slides into the 2-hole. Brady Neal gets a start at catcher, and you have Josh Pearson there. So you have 3 left-handed bats finally again in the lineup. And talk about get off the mat. Tommy White, first batter of the game, solo home run to right field. And let's see. All right, they're kind of off and running. Now, the side would be struck out after that. Come out, Gage jump, falls behind Hunter Stovall 3-0, but works a great comeback there and gets a swinging strikeout. But then Aloy homers to left center field, and the game is tied from that point going forward. Teams trade zeros in the second inning. Is a leadoff walk for Arkansas, and then a single, but Jump gets a fly out to right field, and then gets a double play ball and escapes it for your zero there. And then in the third inning, LSU mounts one of their better scoring threats of the day, and they cash in, and that was impressive. It was good to see. Braswell's hit by a pitch on the first pitch of the inning. Brady Neal gets himself into a hitter's count and singles to right field. Tommy White would ground into a double play. Disappointing, but Tommy White smoked the ball. Aloy didn't even move. Like he crushed it, but hit it right at him. Go back and watch it. He didn't move. They don't get any more tailor-made than that double play ball in the third inning, but White smoked it. So now you're looking at runners, a runner at third base in Braswell and Ashton Larson at the plate. And this was another great swing for Ashton Larson. He had a couple of them this weekend, y'all. We talked about the sac fly in that 6th inning on Friday night. Ultimately, yes, you would have loved to have more from that inning, but at that point, you at least had to push across 1. Larson's down 1-2 in that count and flares one out against a 98-mile-per-hour sinker. Flares it out to the opposite field and drives a run. And that was the first big swing for him on the weekend. And this was the second. Gets down in the count 1-2 and fights the ball off. Like, he didn't crush it. He fights the ball off, but had enough power to get it over the right field fence. And LSU retakes the lead at 3-1. And that was really encouraging, number one, because, again, like I said, it was the second big swing, really, for Larson. But it was what we've been wanting from this team. We're like, man, so many of their runs right now have been coming off of the homer. The problem is they've been solo. You needed to pop one of those out with a guy on, and LSU was ultimately able to do that there. You're up 3-1. And then, man, a big tip of the hat to Gage Jump coming back out in the third. What do we always talk about? After your team gives you the lead, you need a zero. Not just a zero, but a shutdown zero is preferred. And Gage Jump gave you that, getting the Hogs in order in the bottom of the third, tallying a strikeout. So it's like, okay, here you go. You've put together some really good at-bats early in this game against Brady Tigert. Now, I want to touch on that a little bit more. And Gage, you've given him a lead. He goes back out there, gets the 3-up, 3-down inning. Now can the offense put together back-to-back innings? That's what you're looking for. It didn't start great. You had a ground out and a fly out from Travinsky and Pearson, but then Mac Bingham hits a bomb to left field. The only question is, would it stay fair? It did. So LSU had scored in 3 out of the first 4 innings against Brady Tigert, and it was really, really encouraging, and here's why. Because we talked about Tigert having struggled coming into this series, where he had 3 straight outings not reaching the 5th inning. By the way, this made 4. But the difference was he had struggled with walks and command and free passes in those outings. That was not the case on Saturday. LSU had a good plan, and they hit him. He didn't walk anyone. The only free pass he issued was the hit batter to on Braswell. Other than that, LSU got him for 4 earned on 5 hits in 4 innings. I'm watching that and I'm saying, okay, that's a step in the right direction offensively. You have a lead. Gage Jump seems to be doing pretty well right now, but you go to the bottom of the 4th inning, and to further, drive that home, Jump gets a quick ground out, a quick pop out. He's rolling right along. At that point, he had retired how many in a row? Let's see. That's 5, 6, 7. He had retired 7 in a row. You got a lead. And then Sprague Locke comes up and draws a 2-out walk. Edmondson would follow. First pitch he sees, singles to right field. All right. Jump. You can battle out of it. Gets ahead of Helfrich 0-2. Gives up the single to left. Kid smoked it. Hit it so hard that you couldn't score a run off of it. The bases are loaded. Ty Wilmsmeyer comes up, who had been a thorn in LSU side all weekend. He had a great weekend at the plate and obviously in center field. In the first pitch he sees, he ropes the single to left field, 2 RBI. It's a 4-3 game. Stovall comes up, the first pitch he sees, singles to right field. The game is tied, and Gage Jump is out of the game. It happened so quick. I mean, I didn't see it coming, and it wasn't like he just lost command. I mean, the 2-out walk extended the inning, but after that, it was 4 straight singles, one of them in a 2-strike count, which had been a problem for LSU pitching all weekend, but really all season, at least all SEC season. They have not had to put away stuff that they need, consistently, I should say, and it just unraveled on him. It's one of those that I look at and I go, LSU needs more out of their starting pitching right now, consistently. But I also look at that and I go, man, Jump probably actually pitched better than his line is going to indicate, because there was no sign that was coming. Like that's one of those things where, like, credit to Jay, he got him out as quickly as he could, but he had retired 7 in a row. He's rolling along. You're not just going to have somebody tossing. The pitch count was a little elevated, but it wasn't awful heading into the 4th inning. It just unraveled real quick. Ackenhausen comes in, falls behind the first hitter. He faces 3-0, but gets a ground out. He did his job right there. He kept the game tied. At that point, Arkansas starts the 5th inning with Cody Frank, and he was really tough to figure out for a second. Oh, I'm sorry. Tiger did face Braswell. He gave up a single, and then Cody Frank came in, got a strikeout, and Tommy White grounded into another double play. Ackenhausen puts up a 0 in the 5th, pitches around a walk. You go to the 6th inning. LSU goes rather quietly against Frank, who had a really nice changeup working that he was not afraid to throw against right-handers. I mean, he was going right on right changeup fairly regularly in that ball game. That shows a really good feel. You get to the 6th inning, bottom of the 6th, I should say. Edmondson, who had a great Saturday, doubles down the line after a flyout by Helfrich. Wilmsmeyer reaches on a fielder's choice, which scored a run. It was a swinging bunt, just to prove how much of a thorn in the side he was, a swinging bunt. Ackenhausen maybe was a little slow throwing it to the plate, but the throw still beat Edmondson at the plate. The problem was it was on the first base side. It needed to be third base side. It was first base side, and that allowed Edmondson to get under the tag, and Arkansas has the lead. Peyton Stovall comes up, first pitch he sees, home run. 2-run shot. And ultimately, guys, that felt like the dagger right there, because Arkansas's bullpen had been so dominant this all year, but this weekend in particular, it just didn't feel like LSU was going to be able to score 8 runs in the ballgame. And ultimately, they couldn't. Now, you put together some rallies. Bingham homered again, solo shot in the 7th. In the 8th, LSU gets the first 2 on against a true freshman making his debut, highly touted true freshman nonetheless, making his debut. Jones strikes out on a nifty breaking ball. Travinsky hit what looked like a tailor-made double play ball, but Aloy booted it. It ends up being a fielder's choice. Pearson's hit. So you have the bases loaded. Mac Bingham comes in, and Arkansas brings in McIntyre, who threw 62 pitches on Thursday. They bring him in. He executes well, gets a strikeout. So LSU, while you have a chance there against a guy making a debut, they couldn't get the big hit, unfortunately. In the ninth inning, same thing. LSU gets 2 guys on, but Tommy White almost hits a go-ahead homer. It just goes foul. And then he lines into a double play, his third of the game. And the end of that ball game was just a microcosm of what you've seen from this LSU team the last 3 weeks. Tommy smoked the ball, and it's caught. You get nothing for it. And that happened plenty to LSU. Tommy White is smoking the baseball, and you get a double play out of it. Ty Wilmsmeyer nubs one off the end of the bat, and Arkansas gets a run. That's where it is right now for this LSU team. We said it after Saturday, after Friday's game. Y'all, they need something to go their way. Because right now, even up 4-1, and your pitcher retiring 7 in a row, was anyone surprised? This isn't a commentary on Jump or even Ackenhausen or any of those guys, but did anyone feel comfortable up 4-1, even with your pitcher retiring 7 in a row? No, because of the way it's been going for this team, you're just waiting for the next shoe to drop and something go wrong for them. And that's a hard thing to overcome. There is no good reason from like a managerial standpoint this weekend that LSU should have got swept. LSU had plenty of opportunities to win a ball game this weekend, and I will tell you, LSU should have won a baseball game this weekend. We should not be sitting here talking about a sweep. We shouldn't be sitting here talking about a series win, but we should not be here talking about a sweep. Jay Johnson made all the right moves this week. I will stand by. It was the right move to pitch off. And you saw that because you were in a position to win 2 ball games because of that. There's not one move he made out of the bullpen where I could really sit here and scratch my head and go, man, is that the right play? He pinch hits Ethan Fry in the 9th inning on Saturday. Fry had a rough weekend at the plate. He gets a single there, though. Pinch hits Larson in that 6th inning for Kling. You get the fly ball. Like, Jay Johnson made a lot of great moves. Did just about everything he could have to coach them to manage them out of a sweep, and it didn't work. We're still sitting here talking about them getting swept. And that's why I tell you, it is gut check time. Every goal they have, minus winning the SEC, is still on the table for them, but they got to start turning it around now. How you do that, y'all, I don't have an answer for you other than you keep showing up to the ballpark, you keep working, and eventually these things average out over the course of the season. But right now, they're just not doing anything well enough. Like, LSU pitched well enough to win Friday night. Holman did not have his best stuff, and yes, you need more from him, and we'll get into that briefly momentarily. But LSU pitched well enough to win on Friday night. You didn't have good enough situational hitting. I'll go back to that 6th inning. You loaded the bases with nobody out, and you got 1 run. That is the inning you star in that ball game. You get a base hit that scores 2, it's a different game. You string together a couple hits and put up a crooked number, it's a different game. But the situational hitting wasn't there Friday night. On Saturday, you had enough offensively to win the game. You did. But you didn't pitch well enough. You gave up 7 runs. You gave up 3 different 3 spots. LSU, with what we think this pitching staff should be this year, I'm not even going to say what we think this pitching staff should be. What this pitching staff is capable of being this year, 5 runs is enough to win a ball game. you didn't execute well enough there. Nate Ackenhausen, he just wasn't his sharpest. And I will say this, the one thing I will point to that has been a big problem for Ack this year, and we've talked about it already in the pre-conference, he has got to keep the ball in the yard. Nate Ackenhausen has made 8 appearances. He's given up 5 home runs. And it's not just in conference play. Like, this goes back to pre-conference. Other than that, he's pitched well. Like, the walk number's good. He has to keep the ball in the yard. That's been a struggle for him this year. He battled really hard, but he didn't have his best stuff. And it's the same thing with Luke Holman on Friday night. Holman battled really hard, but he didn't have his best stuff, and eventually you're going to get burned. LSU is close, y'all. That's the thing that makes this so frustrating, right? I'm talking about Jay doing everything possible to put his team in a position to win a ball game this weekend, and it just didn't fall in. Like, so I said at the end of the game Saturday is a microcosm of everything, where Tommy White smokes a ball, and it ends up in a double play instead of a run-scoring hit that gets you a run closer. The margin of error for them is so small, and they're not doing the little things well enough or consistently enough. If it's not one thing, it's another. They feel very much damned if they do, damned if they don't right now. But they're close. And I actually feel confident in saying that because of how they battled Arkansas the last 2 games. Again, they did not play well Thursday. They fought hard and were in the games Friday and Saturday with a team that's going to be in Omaha. Or I should say, should be in Omaha. Let me not speak in absolutes. Should be in Omaha and should be competing for a national championship. 1 or 2 more things happen, they win. So they're close. And that's why I sit here and I say, I don't know what else to tell you how you fix it other than pick up your bat, pick up your glove, go back to the park, and get back to work. Just keep pushing away. It's very frustrating. Nobody's more frustrating than them. And no, they're not playing consistently well enough right now, but they are close. And that's why I can look at them and say, man, win, not if, win. When things start breaking their way, they're going to be able to rattle off wins. At least it feels like that to me. Right now, they're not there. A couple things on the rest of the weekend, because this is supposed to be a full weekend recap, and we've spent the majority. How long have I even been talking? I don't even know. We spent the majority of this recap on Game 3. So, I don't even really want to talk about Thursday. That was just not good. I mean, the perspective you had to have was they weren't going all in to win that ball game. What I will say from Thursday, I will tie it back into Saturday. I thought it was a great bounce back from Gavin Guidry. That's something I wanted to see. And he pitched well on Saturday. He kept LSU in that ball game after throwing 15 pitches and giving up the lead not giving up the lead, just allowing Arkansas to extend it with that. He missed the spot with the fastball 0-2 to Diggs, and Diggs hit the 3-run homer late in that ball game. After that, for Guidry to come back, throw 2 shutout, strike out 3, keep LSU in the ball game, that was good. Was the walk number high? Sure. 3 walks, that's excessive. But he battled through it. So I thought that was a good bounce back. And I think that's obviously important for Gavin Guidry going forward. Because if and when LSU does turn this around, they're going to need him to be a huge part of it. So that, seeing him be able to bounce back, pitching twice in a weekend, that is something that I took away that I liked from Guidry. The walks were a huge issue for LSU this weekend. 2 games, LSU walked more batters than they struck out. 2 games, Thursday and Saturday. That is a problem that has crept back up for LSU, really for the first, I don't even really want to say crept back up. It's really the first time all year that walks have been a problem for LSU pitching in SEC play. But this is now 3 weeks in a row that's been an issue. That's just execution. So, I mean, that pick your glove up, toe the rubber, get back to the park, do work. But that's something that sticks out. Them walking more hitters than they struck out 2 out of the 3 games. That's a problem. Yeah, let's talk about Friday. I don't want to talk about Thursday. Thursday was just no fun. A few things I will say about the game Thursday, and then we'll kind of put a button on this. Y'all smash the like button if you haven't already. Holman didn't have his best stuff. He had to pitch around some trouble early in the ball game. He allowed the first 5 leadoff hitters to reach. Now, credit him. He was able to pitch around it most of the time, but he was playing with fire. And you play with fire, you're going to get burnt. And ultimately, he did in the 4th inning. And it was a shame because the top of the 3rd was a great inning for LSU on Friday. The top of the 3rd was fantastic. You had 2 singles with a line out sandwiched in between. Jones walks. You have the bases loaded with 1 out. Travinsky comes up, strikes out. That's where, for LSU to be Travinsky strikes out, but Pearson picks him up. And it was a great piece of hitting. Very mature at bat for Josh Pearson, a veteran, after Travinsky strikes out, to go up there, be down in the count, 1-2, and just hit the ball where it's pitched, shortens up, backside single to score 2 runs. That was huge. But for LSU to be an offense that can get by, not putting constant pressure on the opponent, like Arkansas. What did y'all hear all week? That Arkansas was a bad offensive team. Did Arkansas look like a bad offensive team this weekend? They scored 7 runs in game 1, 4 runs in game 3, and then 7 more. With their pitching staff, that's plenty good enough. But why Arkansas is good is situational hitting. For an offense like Arkansas, for an offense like LSU, quality is better than quantity. The timely hitting is greater than in that spot. So for LSU to be the type of offense that just Arkansas is, because that will give LSU enough to win ball games. As great as it is to see Josh Pearson pick up Hayden Travinsky there, Hayden Travinsky also needs to come through with the hit. You need to hopefully be able to have a hit by Travinsky, a hit by Pearson. Hang a number there that you could feel good about going forward. That's what Arkansas did all weekend. Arkansas on Thursday, they had a solo run in the 3rd, but then a 2-spot and a 3-spot later on. They didn't have constant pressure. They strung enough together. Same thing on Saturday. Arkansas had a 3-spot in the 4th, a 3-spot in the 6th. They scored in 3 innings. They scored 7 runs. That's what LSU needs to be able to do. So, again, as great as it was to see Josh Pearson pick up Hayden Travinsky there, and it was, you need more. I mean, that's your big bats right there in the middle of the lineup. You need just one more hit. One more hit, and it's totally different. That's the margin of error LSU's dealing with right here. Arkansas, again, we said, Holman played with fire, and he got burnt in the 4th inning. A leadoff walk, a line out, another walk, and then the hits started. A Wilmsmeyer double, McLaughlin double to end the inning, and ultimately you have a 3-spot in that inning, and you're down 3-2. You go to the 6th inning, and this was the one that you start right here. The 6th inning is the one you circle and bold and highlight for LSU. The bases are loaded with nobody out. Hit by pitch, walk, single. You've chased Molina from the game. Larson, nice piece of hitting. Fly ball, sack fly. LSU ties the game. At that point, you still have 2 men on and only 1 out, and Milam coming up. But Arkansas's plan worked. They put in Christian Fouch. He has a 98-mile-per-hour sinker. They're looking for a double play. They got it. Milam put the ball in play, but it's a double play. It was a really nice play by Stovall to scoop, tag, and throw and nip a speedy Milam coming from the left-handed batter's box. And ultimately, you're tied at 3, and that's where you kind of were right there. And you're like, okay, is the next shoe going to drop? It did ultimately in the 10th, but it took a while because Griffin Herring was phenomenal. That was an awesome outing from Griffin Herring. and he got out of some jams. You had a great play at first base by Jared Jones, very Trey Morgan-esque, almost reminiscent of Trey Morgan's play on the squeeze bunt in Omaha against Wake Forest. Jones executes that play. You nail a runner down there. He has another great play at first base to end that ninth inning that Herring got out of the jam in. A ball's hit to Braswell. Braswell throws it a bit high. Jones has to go up and make sure he comes down on the bag. Jones played a great first base really all weekend long, but specifically on Friday night. And then Griffin Herring just in total, he struck out the first 6 hitters he faced, 8 total in the ball games, and 4 2/3 shutout. That's a season-long outing for him. He was awesome and continues to just be a great option, after Luke Holman on Friday nights. And then in the 10th inning, you have an out, reach on an error, another weak contact ball that's just put in play, and the hop caught Braswell in between. It skips under his glove, and then you have a rocket double down the line from Hudson White, and Arkansas walks you off. So they need something to go their way, y'all. They were right there all weekend long, except for Thursday, and they just could not get over the top. And you need to win this weekend against Vanderbilt. You'll beat Southern on Monday. You need to win this weekend. You need to win 2 out of 3 against Vanderbilt, and then see what you can go do against Tennessee, who has had their hands full with Georgia at home. The next 2 series are winnable. Jay's pushing the right buttons, it feels like, at least in game. The decisions he's making they're not ones that you can really poke holes in. You just have to execute a little bit better with such a small margin for error. That's what this team has. And right now, the breaks aren't going their way. So we'll see if they start to. But right now, you're 2-7 and 20-9 overall. That's not where any of us thought they'd be. We knew the opening stretch would be tough. That's not where any of us thought that they would be. Let's look for a little bit more consistent play from them going forward, and it'll start on Monday against the Southern Jaguars. Y'all smash the like button. Get subscribed up to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Get subscribed up on your favorite podcast app. All that is much appreciated. And we'll be back for another edition of Musso at the Box, and hopefully you'll join us.